So this is a little bit different. Anywho, we're gonna get started because we are in the conference room. I hope y'all can hear me. Um, I was supposed to be I was supposed to be live. I would say on my camera's this way because I have the phone upside down. This is so funny. Um, I was supposed to be live a while ago, but um, long story short, I went into the hotel room and looking at some stuff and realized I had two strips of eyelashes in the shower. And I said, bro, that's so disgusting. I came back from working out. So, yeah, I'm going to be looking like this. It is what it is. We just want to get to the point here with this video. It's long overdue. I'm going to try to make more of these, not make these too long. For those on the East Coast, sorry, it is after 10 o'clock. Y'all probably getting ready for the next day. Um, but at least we can get started. People get into the call or anything. Oops. If people get onto the call, then that's cool. If not, we're going to just keep rolling with it. Um, so we need to start talking about some DMs. So some of the DMs that we had, I say we, some of the DMs I had, we got some good questions. I can't answer them all because there's a lot, and I don't want everybody here all night. I want to make this as quick and to the point as much as we can. Oh shoot, I didn't even see Kichi Fit put what's the best coffee. I think it all depends. Because I don't really have I don't even know because I'm not a huge Starbucks fan. However, I'll do Starbucks because of travel. It's very convenient, so you can figure out with Starbucks what you're gonna do, and it's hard for them to mess it up. So that's a safe place. I like anything locally roasted, wherever you are. Whether I'm in Memphis, which I'm in Memphis right now, and if it's like a local spot, I'm cool with that. Um, but anyway, let's make sure get to some of these questions. Okay, one that actually for some reason it go on the. I'm sorry, I need to get to the point. We're like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Let me get to the point. One of the questions was a good one that was actually separate. It was a DM, but for some reason it tracked well with the post that I said, send me your messages and your questions. So biggest thing was how can I become a strength coach in the NBA? So usually we talk about sports medicine and the fact of physical therapist, athletic trainer, the medical side, and now we're talking about the performance side. So say if those are people who want to deal with performance and deal with the weight room and such like that. Not every organization in the NBA or NFL, MLB, all that stuff is separated. So keep in mind, depending on the organization, how they need you to fit in the organization or where you feel like your niche is. So for um, you know, being a strength coach, a lot of times having a master's in your strength conditioning is totally fine. But kinesiology, et cetera, et cetera. But physical therapists who are people who did their DPT or their doctorate of physical therapy and actually interning and working as a strength coach, getting that experience is really key. But we get into the standpoint of yeah, you can get interviews and stuff like that, but how do I get inside? And that's how when we talk about um, those who know you and vice versa. So biggest thing is they don't know if they don't know. So the biggest thing is even if you're interviewing or if you're on LinkedIn and you're just messaging people, friending people, connecting with people, they're going to start to see your name. Your name's going to start keep circulating through. Sometimes it's the timing. So say if for the upcoming season things think something opened, like a job opened up, but for some reason they chose somebody who had a little bit more experience. Don't give up because most likely by June 30th ish, don't quote me. Sometimes that's when some of the contracts are done and they're going to be hiring and looking for someone else, even sometimes as early as April. So keep in mind for April, that's when, if our games don't get postponed, that's when the regular season, April 10th, 15th ish, is when the regular season should be ending. Those who don't make the playoffs, they may clean house. It all depends. So that's even on the medical side. Just keep your eyes open. And these jobs may not be posted on LinkedIn, but they could be. or sometimes it's because you connected with somebody on LinkedIn or Instagram, Facebook, whatever you use, or you know someone, and maybe they actually got to know you more, whether that is talking, texting, messages. They can kind of see how you're doing. If they don't physically meet you because of COVID, we understand all that. Like that may not happen, but they actually get to know you and see, oh, this person is actually a good person. It's not because they know everything. So I think people need to understand that it's not about whoever knows the most. That's who makes it into the league. Sometimes it's like, do you know how to handle different types of personalities, people, big personalities, um, egos? And sometimes I'm not even talking about the players. Just throw that out there. I could be talking about staff, but can you handle people? Can you handle different scenarios and stuff like that? Different circumstances, especially if you start off at G League, because G League has an advantage in itself because you are going to learn how to be resourceful, figure stuff out, and you get in that grind. And that grind usually, once you get past that, it proves to your parent team or other teams like, yo, they have G League experience. They can work hard, put in those hours, the inconvenience of G League, whatever, however that, depending on the organization. So I can't globally say everybody is going through like a resource drought or anything like that, because not every G League is like that. However, once you go through that, that kind of shows PT parent teams, NBA teams, like, oh, they can do this, they can do that. That's same thing with NFL. NFL, they have their internships. Their internships, you're starting off as boy, water girl, water boy, and then if you get called on again to be an intern, you get to do a little bit more rehab, a little bit more stuff. Not saying like you're going to be doing the whole plan of care or you're going to be in all the conversations, the injury report and stuff like that. However, you will get that experience, that rep, and literally they get to see how you interact, how you carry yourself, and that a lot of times can turn into a job. I know a couple people already, that more than two actually, that it kind of started off as like a summer intern and then turned to seasonal intern or whatever it is, and they just get called back. And when that job opportunity opened up, they were the first in line because they did well and they showed up. So obviously that helps on the NFL route. NBA route is, I would say, keep pushing, keep looking for opportunities. It may not be right now, but when that, just like keep your eyes open and antennas open, because we're in December, about to be January before you know it, and April's going to be around the corner, June's going to be around the corner. They'll be talking contracts, looking at new opportunities, new things to look at somebody new. So still stay active, keep staying active um, on your craft. Like keep doing what you're doing. I know the specific person that gave that message about like getting into the NBA, and I say keep pushing, because you being active on social media and interacting with the people that knows you, they're gonna keep remembering you. So when an opportunity opens up again, you're like, yo, oh, I remember so and so. They're actually pretty good, and I got to meet them. They're actually like really down to earth, and I tell you that goes a long way. So that's what I would give to that person on the strength coach side. For those who may not have the experience and may not actually, when I say experience, meaning like you haven't worked as a strength conditioning coach, but you want to do that. If you haven't worked as a physical therapist, athletic training trainer in a sports setting, I would say just like some people I've talked to, they've either observed in a clinic, observed in a training room, and they just get their feet wet, even if they're not actively treating the player or client. They're getting that exposure and that experience to kind of see how things move and go, to get a little bit more hands on. And if your instructor or trying to get my words, or the person that you are observing doesn't allow you to actually touch the patient, because whatever it could be, like this their license at the end of the day, in their clinic, then obviously like you can do a residency or fellowship, a sports fellowship to be exact, will actually help you a little bit more. There are actual internships and programs out there. Kevin Wilkes fellowship, even TCC, Team Concept Conference. They talk about different things and opportunities that come up as well. Um, Altus has their fellowship. I would keep in mind not just run to names, because as people may already know, over time things may change and evolve, but it may not be as it once was. And I'm not saying anything bad about anybody's program, but just understand, like, I can only speak on Duke's residency and Wake's Forest fellowship. I could talk to someone else about the Ohio State University, their upper extremity fellowship, and those things. And we could say, from our time, it was very effective. It was very good. We learned a lot. It was very hands-on, very tangible, very applicable to what we have to do. Getting interactions with other strength coaches or medical staff, athletic trainers, physical therapists, the team physician, the team chiropractor, the team psychologist, and understanding how the nutritionist, how does that all get into play? Gaining that actually helps, and I think it makes you even more attractive and competitive when it comes to getting your foot in the door. Someone else DM'd me. I don't even know if people want me to say their names or not, but somebody else DM'd me and was like, I'm a little bit worried and concerned about, like, say, how do I get into the NBA and I'm not an athletic trainer? How do I do that? And you don't have to be one. And I'm not saying don't do that. I do know it's a little bit harder, but it depends. Like, it all depends on what the organization is looking for. So say if you don't want to go back to school for athletic training, it doesn't mean like I can never get in the NBA. Doesn't mean that. I will say you are gonna just have to make sure you're very selective with where you get your observation hours, or where you shadow, or where you how you interact with people to get your foot in the door. And residencies and fellowships help tremendously, and that's the sports residency and fellowship. Nothing wrong with the orthopedic, but you want to get a little bit more specific into sports because you have to do on-field hours. Those on-field hours transfer very well. Say someone who's an athletic trainer. Why I'm saying that? Because I went through it and I can see the correlation is very close. So say if you don't want to go back to athletic training school, because that's the master's program, minimum master's. So I would say, like, that's something that you keep in mind. These residencies and fellowships, there's on the APTA website, you can actually look up residency and fellowships. They have programs listed. If you want to do a fellowship, you have to do a residency first. So keep that in mind. So if you want to do a sports residency, there are good ones. There are a lot of didactic, good educational stuff, and then there is some hands-on. Even if it is high school, that's still good. And then you can kind of get the opportunity, whether it's being an intern with a team or whether it's being hired as an intern and gain that experience of the professional setting. Or say if you're done with your program and you want to get some college experience to be able to actually apply that to the professional realm, you can do that too. There's a lot of correlation in the college sports, no matter the level. The resources may be different, the setup may be slightly different, but the interaction, you have to interact with the strength coach, you have to interact with the coach, interact with, if you have a nutritionist or you have interns acting as nutritionists, all those things play a role. So you can actually do that. Say if you went to undergrad, wherever you went to undergrad, they may have an athletic trainer. The athletic trainer may have 4 sports, or the athletic trainer may only have 2, or athletic trainer may only just have 1 sport. You can still observe, get some hours, and really dive in and put that on your resume, put that on your LinkedIn. I keep saying, have a LinkedIn, have a LinkedIn. When you have that and you really display that, people in the United States, if they don't see it, you don't have, like, if you don't videotape it, if you don't record it, people just like, you ain't do it. What are you doing? You ain't do nothing. But record that stuff. Have someone, after you're done with your internship or your opportunity with them observing, have them write you a recommendation letter. Even if it happens to be just 2 paragraphs, have them write a recommendation letter. That is going to be very helpful for you to move on to the next stage. Ask them, what should I work on? What can I improve on? That will be helpful. Not everything I want to hear, especially if you're not going through a program. The program will have competencies, they'll have checklists and um, evaluations for that clinical instructor to tell you what you need to work on, what you did good at X, Y, and Z. If you're not doing that, you're just like, oh, I went to, FSU because I went to FSU, so I'm wants to get into, football program just to observe, just to help out, or it ended up being basketball, or ended up being soccer, like something like that. Still get that feedback, and get it written down. Email, ask them if it can be email, written, whatever they want to do. Have that and keep track of that, because you go to the next person, you want to build and keep showing your improvement and showing your improvement. Because as you keep improving, then they'll remember, oh, 2018, you went and saw me, and now it's 2021. Oh, I'm over here now. And Do you remember me working with you X, Y, and Z? Like I'm now working on those things you said I should work on, and I just want to tell you thank you. And sometimes a door can open at FSU, and 2021 hit. I know obviously I'm getting weird years over here. An opportunity opens up because they remembered you and they see how you improved and how you worked on yourself, and then a job opportunity could open up, or they remember you and a conversation open up with another sports setting, or University of Miami, LSU, or the professional realm. And professional realm could even be G League. So I started G League. G League is a minor league team of a parent team. So, for example, I'm in Memphis right now. Memphis Grizzlies is the parent NBA team. The G League team will be called Memphis Hustle. Um, so those are just giving you ideas of gain that experience that way. Um, and some organizations are hiring PTs and then hiring an athletic trainer to supplement. Not all of them are having just one person, meaning the one person as a PT ATC. So keep that in mind. It is not as prevalent to have just a PT only, but it can happen. And I've seen it. I know some people who have been in the league who are PTs who are in the NBA and they are PTs and they're not PT ATC. PT ATC meaning physical therapist, athletic trainer. So please keep that in mind. It is possible, but you have to make sure you put yourself out there, not saying, "Oh, look at me." I mean, actually dig in, work your butt off. Whether that's conferences so you can network. Obviously, with COVID, things may actually turn virtual. That is totally fine. You have LinkedIn. That's we already talked about. You're gonna have a profile, and you're gonna just you in the little bio. You say exactly what you want to do. You're gonna follow people that that you look up towards or whatever. Ask them their past because everybody's past is different. My path is different. Somebody else's path different. I did athletic training and physical therapy. There's some people I know only do physical therapy. Um, and it depends on like what you want to do. Some people want to do dance, professional dance. That is also another avenue. Some people want to do professional baseball. That is another avenue. Dealing with the MILB and working up the ranks that way. People do it that way and then become rehab coordinators. So when um, I say all that to also guide into the next question. For someone who was like, well, a um, I want to be a rehab coordinator, or like, what is a rehab coordinator? What do you do? So sometimes, well, more and more schools are adopting that. Schools meaning colleges. I've even seen an MLB. Even some NFL organizations, some NBA organizations have rehab coordinators, someone who oversees the program, whether it's long-term rehab and even oversees the everyday treatments and stuff that needs to be done, whether it's over the athletic trainer, physical therapist, or whomever, just the entire thing. They're over rehab. Some people may call it reconditioning. It's whatever you want to call it, because I don't want to get into the whole conversation of rehab, reconditioning. It's They may call it just depending on the title. Long story short, you may be dealing with people post-op, those who have a long-term rehab, post-ACL, prehab, their rehab after surgery, integrating them back into practice, integrating them back into the weight room, overseeing that, working alongside with their athletic trainer. The athletic trainer may be doing day-to-day stuff. You may actually, maybe after the post-op phase and they can do a lot more, maybe start seeing them twice a week, 3 times a week, and you have multiple patients, you could be doing that. There's people who are physical therapists and they work in the NFL as well, in that capacity. But it might be more of an everyday situation, meaning like the long-term rehab, and they have time slots and it's a little bit more structured, but they also assist the athletic trainer and any other staff of like, the rush of players that come in, whether it's pre-practice, post-practice, and help with treatments and being on the fields, like ready to help out whenever whatever's needed, and also be water girl, water boy. So all these positions are fluid, because when you're in the sports setting, there's no like, oh, I'm the director, I'm the physical therapist, I'm the head athletic trainer. No, everybody, you're gonna be wiping tables too. You're gonna be passing out water, or you using the cow, which is literally like just the water hoses. Um, so that being said, I do advise for that person to get their doctorate in physical therapy and that will help them in turn to get integrated more. And just like I told with the previous question, then you make sure you're very selective of where you observe, where you do your internship. It doesn't have to be structured like a residency or fellowship if you don't want to do that route. But it needs to be close to the setting, and not meaning it has to be the same exact sport, but meaning it needs to be at least something above high school, meaning start off high school, work your way to college, could be Division 3, Division 2, NAIA, whatever it is. You can still get good experience and then build yourself up through there through networking. And the networking is going to help because no matter the division, there's still stuff you're going to learn along the way and be able to do a lot more in that realm. So that's something I would say, because I keep saying we're in America. A lot of times, certain levels are not given certain authority. So if you want to be a director of rehab, if you are a PTA, I just want to be honest. Sometimes you may not get that role because they're like, you're an assistant, and an assistant actually legally rehab, when I say like insurance and stuff wise, may not be allowed to do evaluations or re-evaluations. So there's something to keep in mind when it comes to if you have an undergraduate degree or if you have your PTA. Those are great things. Those don't have to be prerequisites to do physical therapy. Do not be prerequisites to do anything else. In the sports medicine realm, you do not have to do be a PTA to do those things. So keep that in mind. You can go straight to physical therapy or do athletic training or do both. You can do your undergrad in whatever realm you want to do. And if you want to do your master's and do the master's route and do kinesiology or biomechanics, you can do all that stuff too. And with those things, you can actually, dive a little bit deeper, whether it's the performance science stuff, meaning like dealing with load management. That's a very global term. Load management, integration on the side of not just numbers, but how does the person respond mentally and with travel, and how does that athlete respond with load in 4 games in a matter of 7 days, and what is their acute to chronic load. Not trying to get too scientific, just giving out some ideas of what performance science can do. They can do so much more, dealing with catapult or dealing with heart rate. If you don't want to deal with heart rate, then dealing with GPS. Say if you're with soccer and you have catapult, it deals more so with the outside. But say if you do basketball, you want to do catapult and inside, having cameras and understanding what the cameras and knowing what drills are what half court drills create this type of load and intensity, but then it creates this type of load and intensity for guards versus your big man, meaning like power forward, center, stuff like that. The impulses, where the impulses show, the impulses may be higher for a big or like a power forward or center versus a guard. A guard may have a lot of acceleration, deceleration, changes of that speed. Understanding all that stuff in that makeup, that's performance science. But remember, we all work together. So yeah, I'm a physical therapist, athletic training. I have to work performance science. I also need to work with the strength conditioning coach. We have to be on the same page. Nutritionists, we have to be on the same page. The psychologists, we have to be on the same page. This is all at the college setting as well. This is not just professional sports. This is at the college setting. If you are in a private school and you are blessed to have those things in a high school setting, that's awesome too. That is possible. Just keeping your mind open, the possibilities are like endless, because you do your master's and you find out, I don't want to work in the training room like that. I rather be someone that, what I just talked about, performance science, that's something you could do as well. It starts off with internships, but it's also starts off with programs that kind of like your master's, and make sure your master's is catered to what you need to do, like kinesiology. If you want to be in the lab and do VO max testing, or you want to learn about like why does the, or biomechanics, whichever, kinematics, and you want to know why this Nike sneaker can help improve someone with their running. You want to know with ballerinas, how we can make sure their shoe is helping them with their mechanics. You want to know Nike clothes, dry fit. How does dry fit actually do its job? How does that help the person? How does Under Armour contour their padding and help when it comes to football players? Or say if it's someone like a Cam Newton and he wants a certain design, but also make sure it's marketable and still scientifically doing what we need to do, whether it's keeping the body cool, help evaporate sweat, like those things, all that stuff, like the possibilities are endless. It doesn't have to be just an NBA situation. See somebody sitting on the front bench taking notes and being doing first aid, doing God forbid CPR, and being a first responder. This is more than that. You can do anything you want to. So I want you to keep your mind open. I know it's a big rant, but please understand, you have to do a little bit more than an undergraduate degree. That's something I do want you to understand, that you get your master's in whatever you want. You could do doctor of physical therapy, meaning right from undergrad. You can do master's of athletic training. You can do both. Um, when you do both, there are programs out there. Um, Idaho State University, heard that's a really good program. I already know a couple students. I won't shout out their names exactly. So um, to keep, out of respect, but two people already doing quite well. One in the WNBA, one in the NBA right now, doing extremely well. Idaho State University, physical therapy and athletic training. Shenandoah, that is a private institution, so beware. With prices, something to be aware of. That's all do same thing, duly credentialed after you're done. And sometimes I'm putting this out there. You could be in school and do an internship with a team, obviously, because I don't want DMs be blowing up. It depends on your school, because it's not always about the organization. Sometimes it's about the school, because your clinical coordinator can actually allow you to do so, and it's more so during the team season that helps. So say if I get a DM, which I've had, and I want to be an intern, et cetera, et cetera, you may obviously won't directly be with me just because of how everything's going with COVID. But what so say so happens that we want to set up an internship, and your clinical director or clinical coordinator is like, well, I'm sorry, you already have your outpatient experience. Because of that, we would be considered probably outpatient real sports. If you already finished and did that program or that type of clinical rotation, we cannot help you. Just to be honest, there's no way, there's no way to get around it, because that's a CAPT program. Same thing with KD. KD programs have certain things. You need upper extremity, lower extremity. KD, CAPT are programs, or the accreditation, basically. So one is for AP, the physical therapy. KD is for athletic training. In order to say your school is accredited, basically you're doing all your requirements to actually sit for your boards and say that you are PT or ATC once you pass. That's basically what I'm saying. Then there are people that need to understand also too what the season is. So say if you can only have an April through August rotation, I'm sorry, we cannot help you. um, because you're not going to see anything. Yeah, you're probably not going to see anything. So like understanding that, and then some teams want you to be there for the whole season or half the season. Some team so also keep that in mind. So say if your clinical coordinator is like, you can only do 10 weeks. Sometimes the team may say, yo, I don't know if that's worth it. You can do only 10 weeks. Or sometimes they say, I can only do 2 months. If your clinical coordinator is not working that out, or if it's not coming to an agreement with the team as well, whomever that is, I mean, NFL, whatever, then sometimes that's the only reason why. It's one of the reasons why I can't work. Also, to keep in mind, I want to tell people with these internships, wherever you are, sometimes housing is not accounted for. Please be aware of that. Sometimes food is not accounted for. A lot of times, though, food, you'll get some type of food, because if we're feeding players, you're probably going to get food too. But again, I can't speak that for everybody, because I've heard some stories that some, like G League teams, for example, they're not always getting food like that. It's not always required, so that you may not get food, or there may not be a chef there. There may not be, like a kitchen and a staff. So keep that in mind. So housing, travel, how you going to relocate, get there, where you going to live. Some internships actually provide housing, so that part is nice. So something to keep that in mind. So with that being said, make sure I'm doing okay. We're about to be 30 minutes. I'm probably going to answer one more question, because we're going to have to do another section of this. So these are some good questions, a lot of questions. I don't know why I'm hearing some noise out in the hallway. I'm trying to make sure I'm by myself. I just want to make sure everything's okay out there, because I am in a hotel, in a conference room. Okay, I might need this person to clarify. This is a really good question. Somebody said, what advice do you have? Is being an ATC along with a PTA license very important? So if you are a PTA, I know I talked about PTA just like a few minutes ago. If you are a PTA, you are going to have to do something to spice that up, because as a PTA, you're already limited and restricted in the sense of being in the sports setting, because you don't want to get to the point to the you don't want to get into a situation where you have to have someone um, sign off your documents. You have to have someone that's going to um, approve your evaluations, and then you can't do your evaluations and reevaluations and stuff like that. If you're ATC, you can evaluate, you can do a lot of stuff, especially in the sports setting. There's rules, obviously. There's standard of practice, there's scope of practice, all that stuff. But when you are a PTA, you are very limited. So if you are a PTA and you're not trying to get your physical therapy or anything else, either do your physical therapy, I should say, your DPT, or you do need to get your ATC if you want to get in the sports setting, whether that's even wanting to be a strength coach or be a performance scientist or be in the medical side, doing treatment on the table, treatment on the floor, moving around, doing some movement, integrating back into some reconditioning or integrating back with the team, or just daily optimization for that player to do well on the court and stuff like that. Yes, do not stick to just your PTA. People who are in undergrad or deciding what they're going to do afterward, if please understand, a PTA is not a prerequisite for anything. And there's no disrespect to anybody who's doing PTA, because I know a lot of people have done PTA and it's very successful. It is successful in the clinic, it's successful home health, in the general population. It is very limited when it comes to the sports realm. Just please keep that in mind. When it comes to private practice, it is limited. Yes, you'll be hired, but someone always has to sign off your paperwork, or every so often, you're not going to be able to, that somebody's going to have to evaluate your patient, reevaluate your patient, X, Y, and Z. You can't actually do those things. You're not going to be able to be profitable for yourself, because the employer is going to want to lowball you pay wise. So please keep that in mind. Um, look out for yourself before you choose PTA, and know exactly why you want to be a PTA, and also where you want to end up, where you want to go, what setting you want to be in. So please keep that in mind. If you are already a PTA or graduating a PTA, please look into either being an athletic trainer or getting your master's in something. If you, when I say master's in something, let me be clear. Get your master's in something you want to work in. So say if it is performance science, or if you want to be in the lab, if you want to actually do um, like kind of the stuff I was talking about, like say if you want to work for Nike or Under Armour, or performance with like VO2 max and long distance runners, or helping with clothing and design. Like I was talking about, Nike and dry fit, and how things are silhouette and help like swimmers, and how their suits need to be made a certain way. Understanding why Fitbit or Apple watches, etc., could be very sleek and help somebody really get their heart rate and work on sleep, and record their sleep and their REM sleep and all other stuff, how to be as accurate as possible. You want to do that? Yeah, get your master's specifically in those things. Your kinesiology, your biomechanics, your kinematics, your master's in exercise sports science. Do those things if you want to do that route. If you want to do anything like taping ankles and treating people, having guys or girls on the table, moving them around, cracking backs. I said crack backs. Please be aware. Do not. That is a term. Manipulation. If you want to manipulate a back, manipulate a neck, X, Y, and Z, this, that, and the third, do physical therapy. Athletic trainers legally are not supposed to be doing that. That is a grade 5 mobilization, aka manipulation. So keep that in mind. I have to do that disclaimer because you just never know who will come back and say, you said. So anyway, if you want to do anything from the standpoint of being on, working alongside the players, working in the weight room, stuff like that, you want to be competitive, because there's other people out there that are getting this information early. So they're already, bypassing. They're not doing any type of other stuff. They're going straight to the money. They're going straight to BZ school, straight to getting their masters, and maybe, become that strength conditioning coach or in nutrition. Please keep that in mind. Nutrition is a hot topic. Always been, always will be. You can be very successful in that as well. Um, they're doing their nutrition, they're doing their strength conditioning, or they're doing physical therapy, or doing athletic training, those things. and they're getting straight to where they need to because the internship helps guide where they need to go. Even if their first job outside their internship or their clinical rotation is probably not exactly where they want to be, that's the same for me. There's a lot of people, a good majority, 85% most likely, they don't get the job they want when they first finish school or they first finish their clinical rotation or first finish their internship. It may not even be with the same place they did their internship. Keep that in mind. But you build your way up because you're gonna keep networking, like we talked about. You can start that LinkedIn. You can still, connect with people and ask for feedback, ask for advice. I'm giving some of that advice right now, and we're gonna make more and more lives and videos about different questions that popped up. But hitting some of these questions and hope it helps somebody. And I don't want to go too long, so if somebody watches it afterward, they can actually know what I'm saying and not be a whole hour long and be like, "Yo, that's too much to handle." So I answered that question already, and I do appreciate the love. That some of the questions that weren't questions, but just the love. I really appreciate it. Um, oh, and then I kind of answered the question. Somebody else had a very similar question. A new grad PTA in an outpatient clinic, and she wants to work in the world in the sports world. So basically, I already answered some of those questions. So literally, that was like telling you like go further because when it comes to the sports setting, you're going to when I say going to be limited, I'm not trying to knock anybody down. Again, I'm not trying to say that. I'm saying you want to make sure that you're not going to be easily replaced because of your credentialing and stuff like that. Because as a PTA, it is hard to build insurance. And then when it comes to not just insurance, because we're not even getting through insurance, we can talk about just the legal scope of practice. Then it's like, can you evaluate? Do Are employers even going to entertain wanting to employ you because they feel like there's going to be someone else that's going to have to oversee or be a rehab coordinator or be a head athletic trainer or be a physical therapist to oversee the PTA? So keep that in mind. Internships and observation and stuff would be great for you to keep that connection open and that networking, but you're going to have to go further and do your physical therapy or do your um, do a little bit more strength conditioning or get your master's, I should say, in that with exercise sports science, whatever that is that you want to do, or or do ATC, do your master's in athletic training. So you have to look into those things. And last but not least, for all the people, whether you are thinking about going back to school or you don't want to go back to school, or you're going to be a intern somewhere or observe somewhere, whichever, think about being a first responder. So I talked about this in my other videos, talk about this again. First responder usually can help those, especially who are not athletic trainers, those who are physical therapists, those who want to be on the medical side, those who want to be in professional sports at all levels. Um, because not saying you have to be a paramedic, not saying you have to be an EMT. You don't have to be an EMT like me. Not saying that. A first responder, though, it's going to be very helpful. There's been stuff that we already talked about, like I won't say exactly, but it's kind of in the news, so it's not like me saying stuff I ain't supposed to be saying. So, soccer, professional soccer, I had a player that dropped down, cardiac stuff. I believe G League. So keep that in mind. Being a first responder, you're able to recognize things early because you have that training. You can say like, "Oh, this person's healthy. They already had cardiac testing before they got on the team, or pre-participation evaluation. We already looked at underlying stuff. We already did all this cardiac testing, and they just dropped down. They didn't get hit. Something's not right the way they fell down." And you're like, okay, that's probably their heart. So those things you'll recognize and understand. Congent Steps is the company that I'm talking about. Shelly Weinstein is a very great person. She has a lot of instructors that they have an ERA program. So now it's more for specifically to the athlete because the general population is actually can look a lot different as we talked about. So the general population, you can probably tell when someone's having a heart attack. You can probably tell when somebody's having cardiac arrest and, different things. When it comes to athletes, that could be a whole different ballgame. They may not even look, crazy. They may not look, it may not look a certain way, but then you understand about heat exhaustion, heat stroke, what to do with that, how to recognize it early, how to save that person's life. Because once the heat stroke hit and you don't know how to take care of that in a matter of like real quick, if you don't know how to cool that body down within that 5 minutes, just know, or CPR and all that stuff, 4 to 6 minutes go by, just know that every 10% of that brain is dying off because the oxygen is being decreased. The oxygen is being increased. So think about those things. You learn all that stuff. There's different things and programs out there. Conscious Steps is a really good program. They're on LinkedIn. They have a website, conscioussteps.com. Google Conscious Steps. Become a first responder. Um, Learn that stuff. So when even if you're observing someone, you can help the other person and help that athletic trainer, physical therapist, whoever you're shadowing, that they know they can count on you, even though you may not be an athletic trainer or even though you may not be a physical therapist yet because you're a PTA or any of those things. But as you're observing, getting some miles in and networking, they were like, "Oh snap, you're a first responder!" Like that opens doors. Like starts conversation, opens doors, and on top of that, once they figure out what your goals are, what you want to do, they can start helping you along the way because it's like, yo, you did some stuff on your own to kind of guide yourself to this point. You just need a little push. You just need a little bit more guidance. So that's basically, we're at 40 minutes and change. Remember, my camera's upside, my phone's upside down, so I'm looking all weird right now. But I think we're at to stop it here because we have some other good stuff, and I don't want this to be like a super duper long. Actually, you only got one question left. I think we have one question left. I'm sorry. Let's just do this last question. We've been doing really good, and it'll be kind of long, but hopefully not too bad. This one's a really good question. I hope I won't make this too long, but it's a very good question. What is the best and worst part of your job? Okay, so if I want to be honest, I can't say every single detail. I'm under contract. If I want to be honest, I ain't gonna lie to you, but there's some things I have to omit if I just want to be honest, because at the end of the day, I have to be respectful of the entire NBA league, the entire professional setting, the entire sports medicine setting, the entire um, like black race and the organization and all that stuff, and respect for myself. So I can't say every single detail, but you can kind of get a good understanding of like what I'm talking about. Best part of my job, oh my goodness, like traveling is awesome. I love to travel. I always like to be on the go. I like to be. I don't like to be so structured and have an 8 to 5, 9 to 5 job. I also like to explore, so try different things, whether it's a coffee shop here, like, oh, we're in Portland. Let's check out the, like one of the players told me, oh, the hot chocolate's good over there. Okay, let's go check it out. Or it's like, we're gonna be here and looks like we're gonna stay an extra day because something happened. Okay, cool, let's figure it out. That type of stuff I like to travel. And also too, because you're traveling and you most likely see your family and your friends along the way, that can also be reversed. So sometimes you become so busy and you are traveling so much, and you may not go to the same exact cities and states where your family is, so you may not see family. Um, yeah. So if I want to be honest, 20 besides COVID year, even though what we said is still COVID year, I don't really know how to even say that. But since undergrad, I have not seen my family for Thanksgiving, except for maybe 2 of those years, and then the COVID year, which I'll say the year stuff was shutting down, and we had the bubble in the NBA and all that stuff. Like that's a little different. But other than that, when I say undergrad years, because y'all don't even know like what the hell is that. I would say when I started athletic training, so I would say like 2012, 2012. So don't always get to see family. You get to see them in different, pockets of time, depending. But like we were in football or whatever it could have been doing. Like and then basketball too. Sometimes they could be doing like camps and stuff. So keeping that in mind. So I'll say that is not say the worst, but it's kind of like a not so fun. Other great thing is I get to meet people not just like players but also like staff, getting to hear their story, hearing where they're from. A lot of people that work in professional sports, they're not from usually they're not from the city that they work in that environment. So say if I am in Los Angeles and I'm talking with someone on the Lakers or the Clippers, a lot of times they may not even be from Cali, they may be from Texas. Like I'm one of the guys I met, he is from Texas, from Dallas, Frisco, I should say. So that's kind of cool. Getting understanding their also how did they get there? So like it's some crazy stories. Sometimes it's like you went to PT school with somebody and you're like, oh, what happened to so and so? And you just see them across the hall on the other team. You're like, yo, how did that happen? And then you could be the person that did the residency fellowship XYZ, but then that person, they just did PT school and they networked really well and they knew what they wanted to do from the get-go, and somebody reached out to them and they reached out to the other person and it just worked out timing wise. There was a job opening and they got into it. Um, Also too, then I would say like players, like you get to see what the camera doesn't see. You get to see how like narratives and stuff are portrayed about people and players in particular. You meet the player or work with the player or interact with the player, or you see them off season because you have to do off season. We don't really have off season. We do, meaning like games wise, but off season is also our doing reconditioning and checking in on the player, make sure they're good and all that stuff, whatever. We get to see those things that other people can't see, that reporters can't see, that those things, whether the player's going through something in a good light, in a bad light, in a or just see the person for who they are, because narratives are portrayed, oh, they're so difficult, or oh, they're really very particular and snobby, da da da. You meet that person, you work with the person, not true. So that's what I really love, because you get to see the person as a person and not like, oh, this oh big old superstar. Oh my gosh, they had the winning shot and I played a part in that. And this is no, you get to know the person as a person, and then you treat them as a person because they want to be treated as people at the end of the day. And then whether you meet their family or whatever, but you get to see them as a person. And there's things that's outside of basketball, because life is bigger than basketball. Life is bigger than big old contracts. Yes, money is great, money is nice, all that stuff. Travel is nice, whatever. But you actually get to really pour into someone's life, like, and let God use you. Let God let you be a vessel. And I'm not trying to like start in a preacher or nothing, but like I'm telling you, like you have to not take this lightly. I am given this opportunity, a task, such a time as this, to pour into other people's lives and actually minister to them, that they may not have access. No one else may have access. A pastor may not have access. Nobody may not have access to them. Yeah, they may see me as an aunt or whatever, or a sister, but when they get to know you, and they see your heart, and you see your heart is pure because you're of the Lord, you love the Lord, you want the best for them, you want to optimize their performance, you want them to do the best they can do on and off the court. When they see that in you, they see God's light in you, you be able to pour into that person. God be able to speak through you and speak to their spirit and be able to uplift them. Things that some of these people are going through, even the staff going through, that they may not even reveal and tell you. Some that actually do reveal and tell you. Never know what people are going through. Never know. So keep praying for people, but also be able to speak life into people and edify people, and for them to see that joy that's inside of you, no matter the circumstance, and finding the good in things, and also to pray about your circumstance and control what you can control, not try to control everything. Things that you can't control, and learning how to give it to the Lord. Not say just accept it. No, give it to the Lord and see how things turn around. Because we are around these people. I ain't gonna say 24/7, but I'm around these players, around staff, more than I am my own husband, more than I am sometimes myself, if I just want to be honest. Um, and like 90% of the time, like if you want to be honest, you see the good and you see the bad, and understanding like this is a blessing. Like, don't take this lightly. So if anybody, you guys get the opportunity to observe or to intern or to just be in this setting or work in this setting or whatever it is, in the college setting too, in the high school setting, even the high school setting, like, yo, like I worked 2 years as a head athletic trainer at a high school in Atlanta. Like, I learned so much. I appreciate that. It was great. It was so good. Like, and I think the biggest thing, don't think that it's like, oh, whatever, oh, this, you're in the league, you made it, you quote unquote made it. Yeah, 1 to 2% of athletic trainers or physical therapists, let alone duly credentialed, make it to the league. Yes, I get all that stuff, but please understand, like, at all levels, you make a difference and you pour into people. Those who want to get into this in this setting or whatever, pour into people. Because in the day, I want people to surpass me. I want to be able to to really make a difference and an impact. Like I'm trying to like really encourage people and put some fire into them, because when they get here, it's not be like, oh yo, look at me, look at me. No, I want you to say help somebody else, and then you stand on my shoulders, just like somebody said today, a coworker. One of my former coworkers said, stand on my shoulders that you do great things. And then somebody, but somebody after me do great things. Like that's what I'm trying to do. Like that's why I want to encourage people to keep pushing, keep pushing. So like say if I were to talk about anything else, not that great, egos. Just like we talked about the pluses and the things that happen, whatever, egos. Egos could be people who were here for a long time. Egos could be um players on certain teams that be like, yo, you were G League just a couple years ago. Like you only here for like 3 seasons. Like you still a baby. What do you know? Um, and sometimes it doesn't matter. Like you have the college experience in high school. So some people are just like that. And it is what it is. You just be like, yo, it is what it is. I know what I know. And then sometimes too, you could be in organizations or in places that love some of the things that you bring to the table, but sometimes they just don't need everything that you did. Meaning, like, sometimes they don't need a first responder. Sometimes they don't need a nutritionist. Sometimes they don't need, to bring out your strength conditioning skills. Maybe they need something on the, like learn to be versatile, being a team player. And that is a process, because you're like, yo, I did this. I was operating this way. I can get somebody from the table to the weight room, integrating from the weight room to do some performance and, excuse me, and some functional tasks to then get them back on the court to actually perform, be ready to perform, ready to play, because ready to perform and ready to play are two different things. We're not gonna get on that topic. So with all that being said, understand like, yo, the organization needs this right now. And maybe they never need your other skills that you did, but you have to understand what you want or the timing of things. So say if you're like, are you okay to live with that? Are you okay to live with that for a moment or a period of time? Like all those things come into play, and find the right organization that fits you, and not just going because it's always the first opportunity that opens up. But say if the door opens and you take it, the Lord blesses you with the opportunity, you get there, and keep your eyes open. Stay hungry, stay humble, and things will work out however it needs to work out, wherever you need to be led, wherever you need to go, whether you spend a year in the league, 2 years, or 5, 10, is, you know, make the most of it at the end of the day. And that's why I would keep encouraging people, whatever opportunity, even if you become just a water girl, water boy at a college or high school, make the most of it, because that's going to go far. Like some of the stories I'll tell you that I probably will say on this just because of how long we're at. But it started off from cleaning tables. I wouldn't think nothing about athletic training. I wasn't crossing my mind. I didn't even know what athletic training was. Um, and just wiping tables, it somehow drew attention of a program, or the rehab director of that facility, of that training room at University of Georgia. And just like that, he's like, I need you to meet the program director for athletic training. I'm like, what? Just like that. And I wasn't doing no rehab. I wasn't allowed to touch a player at that time, that part in undergrad. I was a sophomore. Yeah, we weren't allowed to touch at that point. You weren't allowed to touch players. You just observe. You clean tables, you observe. So like just understanding those little tasks can take you a long way. So I think that's where I'll cut it off. We're almost at an hour. That is kind of a long time. But I appreciate y'all. Thank you for liking and subscribing. If you want to hear more content, let me know. I have more videos, obviously, to upload. I have a lot of editing I have to do, and I have to figure that one out, because I need to do a better job, faster job. On how to do that, because I have so much content I need to push out there, so you guys to actually see what's going on, get some idea. Say if you can't travel or whatever, you can kind of see like, yo, Utah, or like Portland and San Francisco, and stuff like that. And just see some of the fun stuff, not always just the nitty gritty daily grind, but still see the daily grind, and what to do to get to certain positions and those things. But also about like, oh, hey, I checked out a hockey game in Toronto, or da 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 da, and kind of post those things. So if you like that, comment, like, subscribe. More content's gonna be coming out hopefully around the Christmas New Year holiday as well. Yes, we still work and we have still travel, but I know some of y'all are actually doing finals, finishing up on finals, finishing up school, getting a little bit on break already, and I'm still working. So because of all that, still want to get that content out. So while you're on break and relaxing and chilling, y'all could be watching this. and liking and subscribing and sharing it with other people so they can grow, improve themselves, and let's keep getting better. So, with that being said, I'm gonna turn my camera the other way, like so. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate y'all for everything. And I'm gonna figure out how to end it here. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna press this button and hopefully it goes well. Bye. Let's see if I can do it. There we go.